Anyway, so, anyway, like Kendall said, sorry, I guess I didn't stick to my notes. Okay, so a common theme in my life has been, you have two choices. Okay, I didn't have the easiest childhood. Okay, my parents definitely provided for me, but I had to grow up really quick. And this ties in because my brand on social media is transparency and truth. And I'm very open and truthful about my story, about who I am, where I came from, the choices that I made, the mistakes that I made, and I own it. I'm not afraid to share with you. And you can ask my husband, because he's like, Kristen, you don't have to share everything. Come on. Seriously, you have to tell them about me? Like, if any of you guys follow me on Instagram, I ask him, hey, do you want to be on Instagram today? And he's like, no, I don't. I don't want to be on Instagram. Well, people love you. Come on. Anyway, so that's what I'm coming into today, and I just want to share a little bit about my story, just so it leads into my training today. And I grew up. My parents got divorced when I was 8 years old, and I grew up with an alcoholic dad. Not only an alcoholic dad, but an addict. It wasn't just alcohol. It was anything he could get his hands on. So I had to grow up really fast. And not only did I have an alcoholic dad, but I had empty promises. I had empty promises I had that weren't made. So as an 8-year-old kid who's a total daddy's girl, you can imagine how tough that can be. And so when I was 12 years old, I made the decision that I was no longer going to enable my dad by spending time with him if he was drinking. That was my choice. And at that moment, I decided I was not going to be a victim of my story. We all have a past in here. We all have stories, we all have struggles, but we also all have triumphs. And we have two choices. We can either be a victor of our story, or we can be a victim. When you are a victor, you own it. You are victorious over your life. You own it, you claim it, you proclaim it, and you share it. When you have a story, when you have struggles, we go through it so that we can share it with others. And you are doing your following on social media or your team if they don't know your story. I promise you, social media is a lot more forgiving than I ever imagined it to be. And when you become a victim, you blame other people. I didn't hit my rank because my team didn't work. Or I couldn't, so I want to share this a little bit. My senior year, and this has a video, my senior year, my dad went into the hospital 26 times. I was already, I think at this time, I was already signed to play college volleyball. And yes, for those of you that are back there, I'm 5'1", because I play college volleyball. So I was very driven. I was driven to a point where I was not going to have my life, have my children's life the way that I had it. It turned into bitterness and anger to a point where I just had no idea how to control it. No idea how to control it, but I could channel it. So my senior year, my dad went into the hospital 26 times. I didn't go see him once, because it had to do with alcohol. And for me, the only thing that I can do is to not bring you a bottle, like my stepmom did, but like I said, transparency. But it was time. That was the only way I knew not to punish him, but to say, I'm not giving you what you want. And I would literally get text messages from my grandma or my mom or my brother the day of a game. Hey, your dad's in the hospital. Okay. Was he drinking? Yep. Okay. Cool. Let me know when he's out. I was that calloused. I was that bitter. I was that angry. And so, but I was so driven to not have the life like that, to not have my children go through that. And so I just want to share with you today that you have an obligation to share your story, because it can change somebody's life. And there's more to come with that. I suffer from depression. I've suffered from depression probably since about senior year. And when I shared that with my following, I don't know how many people reached out to me and said, you have touched my life. You have made my day better. And hearing that made it all worth it. Hearing that made that little blue button disappear. Every time. Because if I can change one life by pressing that blue button and being transparent with who I am and what I've been through, it's all worth it. And so I want to ask you guys, before I go on to the next slide, how many of you guys have gone live, Facebook Live? Raise your hands. Of those, keep your hand raised. How many of you have shared your story? I challenge each and every one of you today, schedule it today and share your story. People are way more forgiving than you think they will be. It's really not that scary, because think about it. If you can change one life, if I can change one person who's depressed, who's suicidal, then it's all worth it. It's all worth it to me. So, over the course of time, my main thing has been transparency on social media. I'm very truthful. I'm very open, like I said. And so one of the things that I've talked about a little bit is, as a leader, whether you are an MMP or an SED, people want to follow somebody who's real. And guys, I encourage you, if you don't follow Craig Groeschel's Leadership Podcast, I encourage you to do it. It's the first Thursday of every month. Absolutely amazing. He's a huge pastor here in Oklahoma. Amazing. And it's not super biblical, but it's absolutely applicable to what we do here in Monade. His values align with what Monade is. So he always ends his podcast with, people want to follow a leader who is real and not right. And you're going to see my videos. I'm going to share you a couple of my most transparent moments on social media. And you can tell I'm nervous. You can tell I'm a little bit shaken. I don't have any notes. I'm not composed. And but it's just real. It's absolutely real. I gotta stick with my. So we want to be relatable. Okay, when you get on there and you're perfect and there's nothing wrong, you know, everything comes so easy, nobody wants to follow you. With my background, I don't want to follow somebody who's perfect. I struggled with that enough in high school. I didn't feel like I had any friends that were relatable, which is why I didn't really have anybody to talk to. But it drove me to be somebody who is not afraid to share my story. And if I'm an expert at anything, which I don't claim to be, it would be that I'm not afraid to share where I'm from, who I am, and where I'm going. And this is how it's helped me develop to my brand. Okay, each one of you is going to have a brand. It took me about 4 to 5 months to really realize, oh, okay, you know, my brand is truth. And, you know, just from the people I was attracting. It's not going to happen overnight. You're going to stumble and fumble your way through this. You're going to change a lot of things. But I promise you're going to come into it and you're going to become an expert at sharing who you are. And you're going to attract those kind of people. I want to attract people who have had a hard story, because that means they have a bigger story to tell and more people to reach. To brand yourself means to have uniqueness to your profession or identity. Stop trying to be like everybody else. Own it. Own who you are. If you're dyslexic, own it. If you're super funny like Mariah, she definitely owns it. Oh my gosh. She could come do my Meet Monades anytime. All right? And you're going to find this through your strengths. It's very important that we all understand what our weaknesses are, but we have to highlight our strengths. Your strengths are going to be different than somebody else's. Okay? I mean, this is a copycat business, copy and paste business, but it's also, we get to make it our own. So brand yourself to who you are. An example of my introduction, and I do this every time I go live, unless it's about my foster puppies, and then I just go straight into it. But I say, hi, I'm Kristen Woodman. I'm coming to you live from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm a Jesus lover. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. I'm a fur mom. I'm a motivator. I'm an educator. I'm your friend. I'm a lifelong learner. But most of all, I'm a truth giver. And I'm here to give you truth today about whatever my topic is. And that has become my brand. And so I encourage you guys to have something like that, because that's branding yourself. Be consistent. Always give value. Okay, if you guys are struggling what to go over, Billy Funk said he does this with Brian Fryer. He finds some of his most viewed, shared, and commented videos. He finds the topic and he replicates it. He doesn't go through and copy every single word, but he replicates it, because that's what people want to hear. People want to hear that. So if you're struggling with content, Don't copy it, because then it's not original. You have to give credit where credit is due. But that's a way that you can come up with ideas. And I definitely do it. Cami Beeson's here. We've done this with each other a long time. I mean, we both have been kind of on the same journey. So I encourage you guys to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. And then my last one is share you. Share you. I'm obsessed with my dogs. Obsessed. They are my children. I've got 3 bonus children, but they are also my children. And my husband and I foster dogs. So that's part of my brand. That's part of me. I'm super into exercising and still play volleyball and coaching. I share that. It's going to attract people like me. We want people like us in our business because it creates cohesiveness. It creates, you're gelling, I guess, is what you could say. So, and then also educating. I have a passion for educating, even if it's not about anatomy or biology or exercise science. I'm so thankful I'm not in the classroom anymore. Praise Jesus and money. All right? So just a few steps to brand yourself, just to give you a little bit of application before I wrap this up, is define what you want. What you want. Not all of you are necessarily going to be super charismatic on social media. But if you're still, stay true to who you are, and it's okay to have a script. Notice I haven't looked at it. I hope I'm staying on topic. But not all of you are going to be good at it. That's okay. That's okay. Find your niche. Find where you are most comfortable. And do research on those who are where you want to be. Do you want to be a motivational speaker? Do you want to be a social media guru? Do you want to be a network marketing coach? Do you want to be a life coach? What do you want to do? Do you want to be an SED? Do what they're doing. We all can use this as a platform to reach so many more people than just that need shampoo. And determine what your brand will say. What is your brand going to say about you? For me, mine is truthful. What does that mean? It means I say things people are afraid to say, and I say things that you avoid hearing, and I'm going to say it. And I'm a Christian that cusses, so some of my videos do have cussing in them. I don't drop an F-bomb, I make sure I don't do that, but I do, that's part of it. That's my passion. I do, I'm sorry. I do, I repent for it, does that count? But I say what people need to hear and people that are avoiding. I inspire those who want to change and help them apply the truth to it, and truth to their lives. Being completely transparent is difficult. I have ticked off some of my family from being transparent, being completely open with my story, because they want to keep those blinders on and not see the truth. Okay, we all go through things differently. My brother has a completely different story about our growing up than I do. That's okay, but it doesn't mean that it's not my story. Let's see, assess where you are. Okay? Is where you are right now, what you are doing, is it going to get you where you want to be? Because if it's not, you need to change. Okay, I read I'm going to butcher it because I butcher everything. But I read a leadership promise today by John Maxwell. It's a devotional, and it talks about we're all going to go through change. But it's optional if we grow. It's optional if we choose to grow. Change is inevitable, guys. But we have an opportunity every time that we face change to grow, to learn. Come up with a game plan. At first, schedule and plan out your videos, posts, or blogs. I have thousands of those 80-cent notebooks full of Facebook Lives. And the more that I were doing them, the less pages I was taking up, the less script I was writing, and more just speaking from the heart. And be authentic, be true. Okay? People are gonna know if you're not being real, if you're holding back. They're gonna know, I promise you. And then manage your brands. Everything is in sync, everything. The person you are on social media is the person that you are in front of your friends and family in person, and the person you are behind closed doors. That all has to be in sync, that all has to be unified. Okay? And then how do you get started? Those of you that did not raise your hand about going live, I challenge you to go live. By Sunday, I challenge you, and do something comfortable. My first live was me doing this workout. And guys, let me tell you, I was like, Kristen, you can't tap out. People are watching. Come on. You can't tap out. What are they going to do? They're going to think this is, they can't do it if you're tapping out. And that was what I was comfortable with. I made sure that, like, my belly wasn't going to show, and I had really good tights on, so my legs looked good. And then I shared my why. I think I heard Kendall say this. I think a couple weeks after I joined, you have to share your why. So I went and shared my why. And then 4 months later, I shared my fears, which is what I'm going to share with you today. And then 1 month after that, I shared when I lost my heart. Okay, so I was in my groove, and I'll give you a background story. I was in my groove, and I was going, I was being motivational, I had my schedule down, Monday morning motivation, I was coming live, I was rolling. And, I had people messaging me, being like, how do you do this? How do you stay so upbeat? Well, the Lord tested me that Monday night at Volleyball League, and I lost my heart. Lost it. Man, those F-bombs were flying. I was like, forget this, I want to quit, I'm done. I don't want to play with people like this. This is not fun. I don't pay money to do this. And I opened my mouth a little bit, and it just, war came out in our tiny little volleyball community. But I had to share that I lost my heart. I had to share with my followers that even though you may think I'm this upbeat, positive, motivational person, I still lose it. And I shared with them that. Guys, I lost my heart. I lost it. I let outside influences completely make me take 10 steps back. But I had to share that because they deserve to know that even though they idolize, because people are going to idolize, even though they shouldn't, people are going to idolize and put you on this pedestal. Well, that pedestal can come falling down. And I had to share that with them. Let's see. As I continued, I started to find lessons in everyday struggles, in everyday thoughts, in everyday victories and failures. And I used that to share. Whether I looked it up on, one of the things I did was staying classy. Because I think I said, man, that chick ain't classy at all. How can you be classy in your business? Boom. Did research, came up with 2 bullet points, went live. So it's things like that I used to apply to business, but also be transparent. And that's going to attract people like me to me, like I said. And guys, you're a lot more ready than you think you are. I almost called Kendall this morning because we had to take our foster puppy out to the ER, and I almost wanted to be like, Kendall, I can't come in. I've had a rough morning. I was finding every reason not to do this, just to be honest, because I was so nervous. Look at the people who are up here talking. It's just a huge, awesome panel of people, and I felt underqualified. But that's Satan creeping in and saying, hey, you're going to make a difference today, and I don't want you to talk. Hey, tap out, tap out. So, I'm here, shaking and everything. Thank you. And then how I shared my story. I show them, I don't tell them. I don't tell people what they think they need to hear. I weave Monat into my story. I weave my success stories with Monat into my life. Guys, I was making $6 an hour. 6. I was miserable. Newlywed, brand new, bought a house. My husband's like, thank God you quit. Jeez. It was rough. It was rough. So share that. Weave Monat into your story. Take a risk. Take a risk. I took a risk sharing my story. You're going to see why. Because I want you guys to think of it as coming from a standpoint of my family. You guys have your own views of my dad, and you saw things from a different light, but maybe with some blinders on. And you'll see why it might have ticked off some family. So let's see. Okay, so I got to go to my YouTube. My dad just was an addict, and God bless his soul, he's one of the nicest, most loving man I've ever met. I feel that I grew up in a household where you kind of tough it out, and it's kind of, you can go through a phase, it can be a fad, you're just moody, it's teenager, all of this stuff. And so for me, I just I never felt like I could really deal with my emotions very well. A lot of it came out in anger. It probably, to some of my friends and family, I was probably a spoiled, but I felt like my mom compensated with that because I was dealing with a lot. My dad was an addict for a long time. He struggled with a lot of different things, and I mean, addiction is a disease. Alcoholism is a disease, and it was something that I always felt like he chose over me. And so, kind of fast forwarding to my senior year, because this is where I really had a lot of issues. I was not a very confident person. I mean, you may think just because someone's beautiful or attractive or athletic, they look like they have it all together, because I was very involved in school, I was very involved in sports. I always wanted to be the best, so that drove me to try to be the best at everything that I could be. I never did anything half-assed. Not a very nice person. I was probably almost kind of come off as like righteous or judgmental. And I apologize for any of you those that are watching from high school. My dad went in the hospital 26 times my senior year. I didn't go see him once. I would get phone calls or text messages right before I had to walk onto the volleyball court and play a game. Hey, your dad's in the hospital, it's kind of dangerous, he might be sick. Okay, was he drinking? Yep, all right, I'm not coming to see him. So I was a very bitter person. It consumed me. It consumed me to the core. One of my biggest fears coming into multi-level marketing and joining the business that I joined was depression is tough. Every summer after teaching, every summer that I didn't have a set schedule, I would go the first 2 weeks into a very low. First 2 weeks I slept all the time, every single summer after teaching. It was very difficult for me thinking, okay, I don't have a set schedule. You work your own business and you set your own events and you set your own times. And my biggest fear was knowing that when I started in February, that June would happen and I would have to make my own schedule. And that was my biggest fear is, am I gonna hit that low? Am I gonna hit that depression mark and not wanna work for 2 weeks and sit on my couch and binge watch Netflix? Because that's one of my biggest fears. And I've tried to get off my medicine a couple times, and it just, I mean, depression is something that is genetic. It is something that people truly do suffer from, and that was my biggest fear. Is the depression going to overtake me? And because one of the best things for me is to have a schedule. I had a difficult time growing up. Long story short, I always felt that, I always felt that promises were made but never kept. And so I just found myself really creating a bitterness in my heart. And it set me back 10 years ago. 10 years ago, actually 9 years ago, my dad overdosed on morphine. He actually took 90 morphine pills. It ended him in a 6-week coma, almost died, had to be, revived. We ended up signing a DNR because they said his quality of life was so low. Ended up fighting through. He lived another couple years. But I just remember getting the phone call when he was in the hospital. And my dad went in the hospital a lot, so it wasn't new. It was like, all right, whatever, he'll be out in a couple days. And I remember my mom stopping me before I was going out to work. It was my spring break in college, so I was home working, and I remember her saying, your dad's in the hospital. All right, cool, whatever. I didn't care, guys. I didn't care. I didn't care if he died on the table. That's how bitter and pissed I was. Ridiculous. I am so thankful that I was able to forgive him. But guys, let me tell you, I had a huge wake-up call that day. My dad was on 5 different IV pumps. He had an IV pump in his neck. He was on as much medicine as they could give him to keep him alive. And he was restrained. They actually had to put this glaze over his eyes because his eyes were open, like wide open, and he was jolting, breathing. He had aspirated, so he had vomited into his lungs.
My dad's a heavy smoker, so you can think of the complications with breathing and not being able to breathe on your own, and you add years of smoking into that. So anyway, I just remember sitting in that room with my stepmom and them saying, do you want to let him go? And I was like, yeah, let him go. No skin off my back. I won't have to deal with this anymore. Literally, that's what I thought, guys. 18 years old. This is how bitter I was. This is how calloused and hard and emotionless I was about my dad. My dad. And I just, oh my God, it's been so insane. I remember that night they called us back. And they called us back because they had to revive him. And I was sobbing into this blanket at the hospital. And I was praying. I was praying to whoever it was. At the point at this time in my life, I wasn't a Christian. And I had no idea that, he could die and not go to heaven. And guys, I was so freaking pissed. I was so pissed and so selfish at this point in my life that the next day, we sat around for a few hours. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. Sat around for a few hours, said our goodbyes. And I really did not know if my dad was going to live through the night. I got up, I didn't go to work. I called into work, and I remember clearing everyone out of the room, and I remember saying, he doesn't know I did this. He didn't know that I forgave him. But I remember saying, Dad, I forgive you. I forgive you. And guys, the amount of anger that literally left my heart in that instance by saying, I forgive you, was an absolute life-altering, changing moment in my life. I mean, I was no longer angry.
So those are some of my most transparent moments on social media. Thank you. So let me get back to this so you guys don't see me like mouth open wide. Anyway, so if you guys want to catch my full story, I do have another one on YouTube that is about anxiety and depression as well, and trying to let people in on what people with anxiety and depression suffer with. So those are the full length videos are on YouTube or my Facebook channel. I wanted to share with you something that hit me when I watched this clip, was that I wanted to be the best at everything. And let me tell you, I feel that I have tried to be, a well-rounded leader instead of focusing on what my niche was, focusing on what I'm good at, focusing on being a voice for what I struggle with, but also being transparent and truthful. And it can create paralysis in your business. So if you feel like you have to be good at social media, you have to be good as a leader, you have to be good in all these different areas, you're only being average at them. You're only being average. You're not becoming an expert. That's the beauty of this business, is we can share a tool. You could share a video of somebody that's an expert at something you're not. That's the beauty of this business. So I wanted to share that little clip with you, is that don't paralyze yourself thinking that you have to be good at all of these different things. And then find your niche and own it. And I want to end you with this quote. And if any of you are Christians, this is an amazing book. Carl Lentz is a Hillsong pastor in New York City. And I listened to this, oh my gosh, it's been life-changing. And he talks about own your moment. And he's actually reads it too, so it's even better if you listen to it on Audible, because, yeah, anyway, he's this tattooed up pastor for Hillsong. Anyway, so it's your time all the time. Don't wait for people to tell you it's your turn. Don't wait for anyone to tell you you're too young and that you should wait your turn for another opportunity to come. Also, and when you're old, everyone's going to tell you you're too old. Whoop. And that you should wait for another opportunity to be taken so that you can take one. If you do that, you're going to spend the rest of your life thinking, when was my time? When was my opportunity? It's your time all the time. Go own the moments of your life. It has been a blessing to talk to all of you today, and I am so humbled and grateful that you guys listened to me. I hope that you learned something. I hope that each and every one of you goes out and shares your story. And those of you that haven't pressed that blue button on Facebook Live, that you guys go do that. I appreciate it, and thank you. introduce Ashley Bosky. I'm so excited to introduce her. Ashley and I were, I think, in the same grade. She went to Berry Hill and I went to Glenpool, but Berry Hill and Glenpool were rivals, so you kind of knew of each other. She is a resigned second grade teacher. She does Monteith full time. She is an incredible organized leader. I've reached out to her quite a few times because she has these awesome notebooks that she gives to her new people, and so I've kind of taken that from her. And she is also a senior executive director. Please help me welcome Ashley Bosky.
Okay, let's do a giveaway real quick. So get out your tickets.